I'm Rhiannon Perry. I am a sickle cell warrior. I was really young, so around 10 to 13 when all of this was kind of going on. Prior to my transplant, I had a lot of pain and a lot of health issues caused by both the sickle cell and lupus. So this has been a process from like 9 to when I finally had my bone marrow transplant. So I was quite young. The biggest aspect of it was looking at the future that I would have after the bone marrow transplant, which really aided our decision in deciding to do it. The person who actually introduced us to it was my hematologist at the time, and he said that it might be the best option for long-term growth and health and overall my ability to live. There are a lot of doctor's appointments and mental evaluations, physical evaluations, a bunch of things that you have to do before that. So I guess those procedures help to keep me in line with those places in my life, I guess. So mentally, speaking with a therapist or one of the people who did my psychoval and working with him throughout my entire treatment. So that was kind of like a way to prepare for that. But other than that, on a more personal level, I don't think there was too much that I was involved in before my transplant that helped me prepare for it. We did have a lot of get-togethers like with family, just to kind of redefine those points of support. There's a lot more support to be had from people who helped to make this decision, who helped to ask questions that they didn't actually see, or to acknowledge things that were important that could have been downplayed and something that they couldn't have 100% got or understood throughout it all. So that was a big thing during the decision making of it. For me on my side, it looked more so like cookouts, parties, just stuff to kind of show you who is there for you and who's there with you. The days leading up to the transplant, I remember there being a lot of medications that I had to take, a lot of like little procedures or little like medical treatments that were done in between that time. I remember like before the transplant, I just remember a bunch of dance parties, a bunch of like self-care, a bunch of like time to reflect before that. And then during the transplant, the procedure itself, all I remember really was the taste of sweet corn. Don't know why that was there, but I don't remember very much pain. Probably the easiest part of the entire procedure was actually the transplant day. There were times when I was a little bit concerned. There were times when I wasn't sure what was going to happen. At this point, I had already gone through 12 years of struggling, late nights and wondering, like how I was gonna get through it. So I just feel like for me, it was just another step. It was just another process, or it was just another period in time that I would again eventually get through. And I think throughout it all, and even with my family, it was just like, this is one stepping stone. Like, this is going to be it. This is going to be the time when you're going to have the most pain, but you're going to get the greatest reward. It was a scary process, but at the same rate, I feel like I had the ability to kind of find the good and the beauty in it. So I worked with Hope for Henry during my transplant. And for those who don't know, Hope for Henry is an organization that works to help incentivize patients to get through their treatments. A couple of things that would have been hard for me to get through during my transplant, and they worked with me to get me happy or excited to do those sort of things. Another thing too is that they really helped keep a strong relationship with my sister, and she was also very supportive. I mean, she was younger, but there was something about her being there and knowing that she was on the other end that really helped push me forward. And I think that's a big part of feeling supported. Another thing was that my dad used to come before work. He would hang out with me sometimes. He cut my hair when I went through the treatment that removed all of it. So just those things along the way, the nurses, all of the awesome relationships that I got to make with them, that was super cool. And it just made me feel like I had a home within there, that I didn't have a bunch of people that I didn't know hanging around me. So it was just each relationship that I made along the way helped me feel supported. It's been about 6 years, if I'm counting right, since my transplant. Again, it's really just dealing with all the things that happened before that that could never truly be addressed without addressing the sickle cell and the lupus. So now it's just focusing on my joint health. And really, that's the biggest thing, just the joint health that was affected prior to the treatment. There are more things that I can do now. It feels better to know that there are things that I can do within reason that are not restricted by my health. Before, there were a lot of things that I had to look at, a lot of things that I had to be aware of, be mindful of, and it's no longer major life altering decisions that I'm trying to make day by day by day. You know, there's just living and all the things that come with that. So it also makes me feel better about going through and doing things like college, which is can be scary, but it's like these are the normal things to feel. It's no longer something that's being perpetuated by my health. I had a double hip replacement after my bone marrow transplant. And I guess when I was younger, it was important that I wasn't as active, just to be mindful of the deterioration in my bones and stuff like that because of all the things that were going on at the time. But when I got active now, it surprised me how much fun it was to be able to get out and be able to like swim and do all of the fun stuff that I wasn't able to do before. So in terms of the things that I could unlock once I was healthy. For me, I think I've always kind of struggled with my identity. I've always struggled with like where I fit in, where do I belong, you know, being a kid and not being able to do the regular kid things, it's difficult. Not being able to make friends because of that is very difficult. And then even after the transplant, it's like, okay, but I've spent, 17 years now in this group and in this like lifestyle. And now that I'm breaking out of it, where do I fit in at? So I can't 100% say that I have found where I belong or found my identity overall. But what I can say is I definitely feel like things have evolved. I feel like I've learned a lot along the way, and I can still identify as a warrior. I did go through these things. I did make it out successfully, and I do have big plans for my future. So I'm still working out who I want to be and who I think I am. But overall, I'm very proud to say that I've learned a lot even through those struggles. Right now, in terms of my health, the only thing that's been kind of like an up and down thing is really just the repercussions of everything. And for those who don't know, sickle cell basically is when the body doesn't get enough oxygen or the blood cells can't give the body as much oxygen as it needs. And then lupus is when your immune system is kind of fighting its own self. So with these two diseases, it caused a lot of bone health issues. It caused a lot of internal problems that now that the bone marrow transplant is over, I can finally address head on. And all of the other treatments that I've had with that, it's just been addressing those things that couldn't have been addressed during that time. And I wouldn't say that they were like life-altering major issues anymore, because now it's like dealing with that and that's over. So it's just kind of checking the box off of everything that needs to be accomplished and just moving through it. But it's been fairly easy so far. What I wish I knew before my transplant and what I wish I knew like during it, I don't think that there was anything that I was misinformed about or something that I lacked in information. I just wish that along the way I had written things down, like notes to myself about what I was going through at the time to help keep myself accountable, and then also kind of journal where I've gotten now for where you're going, and also be grateful for the things that you have along the way. So as I'm trying to build my identity and as I try to move on with my life, it would have been helpful had I been able to stop and reflect on those things along the way. And reflection has been a skill that I've learned so far, but again, I wish I had known that throughout it. So as silly as this may sound and as hard as it may be, I would just try to be as accountable as you possibly can for yourself and for your treatment. For me, I personally found that being accountable for the things that were going on, whether it be knowing my appointment dates, knowing what treatments were going on, knowing how I was feeling, knowing what I would need, being accountable for my health, even with the support of my family, made me feel as though I had an understanding of what was going on and I didn't feel lost and confused. So by being accountable, I felt as though I knew what was going on, and the more knowledge I gave myself, the easier it was to go through it. I would also ask a lot of questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand something or if a doctor has said something that doesn't quite make sense, ask again. They're there to inform you, they're there to help you along the way. And I know that each treatment can be scary, each step can be something that you're afraid of taking, but the more information you have, the easier it is to go through it all. So just ask questions,